Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Karen A. in Jerusalem with Reco12 and the Afro-Euro Timezone, although we have people listening from all around the world. Reco12 is a family of recovery resources for all those who have recovered from addiction, whether to alcohol, drugs, people, compulsive overeating, hoarding, gambling, etc., etc., etc. Our website is Reco12.com, and you can check us out at Reco12.com/support if you'd like to contribute your seventh tradition. That goes to supporting the costs of our Zoom and technology. That can be done with PayPal or Venmo. If you'd like to share on Reco12.com in the Afro-Euro time zone or in other time zones, you could do so. You could record a short clip of yourself, a speak pipe, and we'll get to hear you. You could reach out to me personally. I'll try and put my number in the chat soon, or to Justin. And we would love to have you share your experience, strength, and hope, whatever fellowship you're in, and whatever recovery you have found through the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. It is my honor to introduce you to my good friend and fellow, Aura F., here in Israel. And she's going to share her story, her recovery story. She entered the rooms through Al-Anon as a youngster and made her way. She's an active fellow, supporting others, sponsoring addicts who are dying or in the grip of a killing disease that drives people insane or to the grave. And she is out there doing God's work and spreading light in this world. Aura, thank you for joining us. I'd love it if you introduce yourself, tell your brief recovery story, and then you have 20 minutes, perhaps a little bit more, to share your experience, strength, and hope, what it was like, the topic you'd like to share on, and anything else you feel that would be helpful to our fellows. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you so much, Karen. Thank you for your friendship and for your service that you do for all of us. I am Aura. I'm a member of this program. Happy to be here. Today I have a sustainable joy based on the daily reprieve that I have in my spiritual condition. I apologize if I'm a little slow. I just got off a plane a couple hours ago, so still recovering from that. But I wanted to come here because this program has become, and this book, these 164 pages of this big book, have become a bright spot of my life. And so I owe a huge debt to this program that was introduced to me at a young age. Karen mentioned I came into the rooms with my family member. My mother brought me to Al-Anon as a teenager. She had attended, and I came in, and life was pretty unmanageable. It was unpredictable. My household was unpredictable. I wasn't really sure which authority to go to, who was my authority. It wasn't a household where we spoke about God. And so I think when I turned about 16, and that's when my marijuana addiction started, my use started, it kicked up. I think I was already looking for a solution many, many years before that. I was looking for a conception of a higher power for a very long time. I even think that started at a young age, like maybe even 4 years old. My conception then of a power greater than me probably was love, friendship, connection, and that wasn't something that came easy to me. I think, the part of this disease that really gets me is that isolation, that loneliness, all those bedevilments that we read about. Self-pity, loneliness, depression, we're prey, and we view ourselves as victims. We're a prey to misery, depression, self-seeking. And I know that today, I know in all of my being that I need a solution today. I don't have a chance without it. And that kind of desperation that I came into the program with, and now 3 years in, my sobriety date is January 9, 2021. That desperation has followed me. That willingness and open-mindedness has followed me even today. And I'm really grateful for that. I think when I came in, that felt like a fear of going out, a fear of using. But today it's actually a motivation. It's something that I work at every day because I know that faith without works is dead. I need action in this program. So I came into the rooms, and as a teenager in Al-Anon, I didn't stay very long. It was a brief couple meetings, and then later on another family member when I was 18, took me to the rooms of AA in Los Angeles. And as I reflected this past year in recovery, I realized, my first conception of a power greater than me was in that AA room. It was a large meeting in LA. I believe it was a speaker share, and we held hands at the end. And I felt a power there that I'd never felt growing up. I didn't have religion growing up. Again, my parents didn't talk about a God. It was kind of like a free for all. It wasn't, we didn't have a lot of rules at home. There was a large, open-minded kind of hippie way of living in many aspects. And so I felt that at power in AA, and then it was many, many more years until I realized, the rooms are my solution as well, but not just the rooms, right? The book, this power, everything that comes along with this beautiful fellowship. So what I wanted to talk about today is a little bit of a topic that I think I don't hear much about, and I kind of stuff it away within myself. I kind of keep it really deep down inside of myself. It's something that even came up last night. I had a lot of emotional turmoil yesterday. And what I love, the programs told me that if I just, keep doing the next right thing, and I'm living in acceptance, I'm living life on life's terms, that yesterday doesn't have to define me today. And that wasn't a reality for me. My reality was, if things aren't working out my way, I must be wrong. This is a moral dilemma. And it's not going to be okay. There's not going to be a sense of ease or serenity until things start going my way. And that's not my reality now. My reality is I wait. I'm patient. As page 118 says, I'm patient, and I'm waiting for that next right intuitive thought or action. So I wanted to talk about the pain cycle. For all of those listeners that are hearing it now or will hear it later, I've heard a couple people share, in the rooms that they deal with chronic pain, and that's also my story. And I think it's a story that's constantly being revealed because we don't know so much scientifically. I haven't yet found a solution outside of the rooms for the pain cycle that I go through, the chronic pain. It's something that I woke up a couple months after I started my using at 16. I woke up and half of my body was numb. I couldn't feel my body. There's like a numbness and a pain, and I've searched everywhere, emotional work, physical work, energy work. I've learned those things. I've been provided a lot of gifts through that. But at the end of the day, that was always very frustrating because I wasn't getting that relief. So I sought relief from an early age. And before I came into the rooms, I must have been looking for this relief for at least 12, 13 years. Again, all those different things we work in our big book sponsorship workbook are all our different the log list, the human power that I tried. I tried a lot of different things, spent a lot of money, and I did a lot of those things on my own. So any money that I spent, I had to work hard for. But when you're living in pain, as many of you know, it's pretty hard to work. It's pretty hard to get into action. So that pain went hand in hand. There was a relationship between pain and misery, self-misery, and the pain was my justification of I could do no wrong. I really had a reason, and just a reason for anything that was happening in my life. If someone didn't, agree with my decisions or my choices, or I behaved in a certain way that maybe, really wasn't the best of reflected the best of my character, I was like, you know what, in my head, well, I'm in pain. So I had this justification. I had this excuse in my back pocket of why I could show up, why I could use, especially with marijuana, just the increase in the medical industry, medical marijuana industry, especially in California. This was all really accessible to me. And it was even encouraged that was my solution. So I see a lot of people coming specifically through, MA and all fellowships, just with that, understanding that some of these things that are our drug of choice has been encouraged to be our solution for those of us in pain. And we quickly see that solution doesn't work. And we need this power greater than ourselves, the power found in the room. And that's been my solution. So that's what I want to talk about. I will first say in the 12 and 12, page 112, it says here at the bottom, here we go. So it talks about pain. It says that AA answer to these questions about living. So any questions I have about life is yes, all of these things are possible. So working this program, things become possible. We know this because we see monotony, we see pain, and even calamity turn to good use by those who keep on trying to practice AA's 12 steps. And if these are facts of life for the many alcoholics who have recovered in AA, they can become the facts of life for many more. So there's a lot of hope here. There's hope that when I work these 12 steps, the pain, the calamity, everything's turned to good. Sometimes slowly, sometimes quickly, it materializes if I work for it. And these are facts of life, meaning this is a promise. I hear a promise in that, we've recovered, you can also recover. And I know there's something very bleak about chronic pain. There's very little times that I felt, light at the end of the tunnel. It's amazing to me that today, even through pain, even though that pain really hasn't changed, I've changed. I've changed in my outlook. I've found this power. And as I'll read, I really want this to be also focused on a step 7 share. I'll read a little bit more about step 7 in the 12 and 12 that, it's become a way of life. And I'm not waiting, just as I don't determine my recovery, my success in my recovery just for today is not determined if, okay, what's going on in my mental life? Am I having thoughts of use? I don't have responsibility. I don't have that choice over that first thought. I do know that I have to smash the idea that I'm not like others. I don't really get to obsess anymore. But even though I'm in pain, that's not a marker. It's not a determinant for if I'm recovered from the pain or, in my recovery. I guess what I'm hinting at is that it's become much larger than that. The acceptance has created a reality. It's created this breathing room. It's created much more than just the word coping, because that's what a lot of those solutions out there, were having me do, just cope, but it didn't work for me. I still was miserable. I found myself in relationships with people because, those of us in Israel understand that we're now in a war. And, we always have this war going on inside of us and outside of us. And there's something that happens when we're, exposed to a war outside of us. We get to really keep looking inside and seeing what's going on, what's that conflict, what's still blocking that sunshine of the spirit. And I really think this recovery is about, do I want it today? What am I doing today for this? Working with others has become a huge part of that, right? Because when I'm in pain, things are bleak. I can't see the end of the tunnel. But when I feel useful again, when I'm thinking of others, that's another part of this solution. I want to turn us to step 7. Step 7 says, the word humility is highlighted there. Humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. I don't even know sometimes when those shortcomings are removed, when they will be removed. But humility seems to be, from what I've learned in my experience, seems to be at the core and at the the first point of turning on the faucet to all these other beautiful assets that we write in column 5 when we live with this power in column 5. So it says in the 12 and 12 here on page 75. It's the top of page 75. Then in AA, we looked and listened, right? Are we listening today? Everywhere we saw failure and misery transformed by humility into priceless assets. We heard story after story of how humility had brought strength out of weakness. In every case, pain had been the price of admission into a new life. But this admission price had purchased more than we expected. It brought a measure of humility, which we soon discovered to be a healer of pain. We began to fear pain less and desire humility more than ever. So it's so beautiful reading that. My mind really works in images. It's like, we buy this ticket to a life. We don't even really know what's going to happen when we come into recovery. What's this going to be like? I go to this amusement park, I pay my ticket, my price of admission, and I think, I'm getting a couple rides. It's this certain experience in my mind. I'm pretty limited. All things are possible, as we read before, right? Living this life of acceptance just for today. all things are possible. And then it's beyond just this price of admission. This new life, this whatever's behind that, the doors of the admission is so much larger, so much grander. We can't really imagine, and I don't even have the words to share the experience of watching, those who come in this victim mindset, in this misery, the lights turn on in their life, and then them go out and be useful. And the simplicity of this program is something also that I searched for. I really wanted simplicity, and I wanted sustainable joy, sustainable bliss. So this humility it's telling us here, and what I feel the seventh step is telling us is that after we've taken that inventory in 4 and 5, and I love in our workbook in step 4, it says we have to face and be rid of. So it's not just facing those defects. I have to also be rid of them. I have to go through this 2-step process. And as we know, those of us who take that 10th step inventory, we have to do that so many times. And I think that's the process of the humility, is being accountable, and made amends right away, right? So it's this immediate looking at and facing rather than stuffing away. And I know through the tools of this program that I have that support, I have that friendship, I have that safety to live again in this authentic light that can shine beyond just someone living in pain. It's so easy when we're in pain to, start on that road of misery, poor us, no one likes us, we're not accepted anywhere, where's my place? I'm kind of going through that again now. I think, again, the cycles of life are the cycles. It's a cyclical nature. It's an ebb and flow that I wasn't willing to accept before. I just thought everything had to be up, up, and up. I wasn't willing to wait in the periods that felt maybe a little bit more restless, irritable, and discontent, that, on the other side of that, there was going to be that joy, that happiness, that freedom. I'm looking for freedom. I was looking for freedom essentially also for my body, because I have a body allergy. So it worked for a little bit until it didn't. And that's the beauty of watching the mind, being observer of the mind, because I still like to convince myself that I'm willing to have the cheap go around. I don't really know how else to say it. I'm willing to have the cheap product. If there's 2 oils in front of me and one's $40 and one's $3, I'm willing to have, the cheaper one because I save money, but actually it's maybe not the best for me. So I still have that mindset. I still like to play small. I like to have the easier, softer way. I want to do half measures. I'm lazy and undisciplined. So that's what we read in 86 through 88. I put my name there. Aura is undisciplined. I need God to discipline me. I need to be shown the way. There's a lot of things that are still so unknown and will continue to be unknown. Can I practice humility? Can I look and listen? Can I face these defects as they come up in every single situation? And also, it says a price had to be paid, but when I pay that price, remember the promises tell me, and all the promises have come true. It's like we talk about in these rooms, no one who's worked this 12-step program has not recovered. The promises are something like, I was going around looking, no one else gave me a promise. There was never any promise, in doing therapy or these things. And if that works for you with your program, go ahead and do that. But those things didn't work for me. And I became very resentful at, there was some sort of mockery. A lot of people told me, or I don't know why you're in pain. It must just be in your head. And it's a funny thing now, because we know that this program is about our thinking. It's about our thinking. It's about what we do with the second thought, not the first thought. Do we pick that up and run with it? Are we, are we a tornado in everyone else's life? How organized are we, in our day? Are we still looking for outside power, human power to help us? I really do believe from my experience that everything I've ever faced and will face is found in the solution in these 164 pages. And so that's why I can show up here today and provide you with that sense of trust. If you're in pain like I was, or in pain today, there is a program here, there is a solution that I haven't found anywhere else. You can develop your story here. Stories are never just, they don't just go along in a static way. They ebb and flow. And the story of pain, even though today could be a continuous one, that I might not have gotten that relief on a body level, I know that I'm getting a relief. Just my mind is clear. There isn't anything to worry about today. I'm not concerned with, am I healthy? Am I not? What am I doing? Because the method out there was always just you control it. And it tells us in the doctor's opinion in the big book that it's not about self-control. That's not what we're doing here. We're not trying to, get it under control. We're trying to seek this power, and this power and this way of life is the healer of pain. And I don't have to fear pain anymore. I don't have to fear discomfort. I know so many times I've been shown that there's a guiding hand in my life, that there's a plan in my life. I got to ride my bike through beautiful nature this last week, and I was just, I was singing to my creator, this creator, like, that the creator that we talk about in our 7-step prayer. I know you have a plan for me. I know that, maybe I don't feel like praying today, but I can sing to you. I can praise you. And I know that I can mix, and I can mix myself. I guess that's not the right word, but I can convene. I can walk hand in hand. I can grow in understanding and effectiveness with so many different people around the world. I also encourage you, if you haven't found your fellowship yet in person, I think that's also an important thing for us, is to find meetings, fellowshipping in person. Hopefully we'll get that here in Israel going. But I think when we convene hand in hand, when I'm having a bad day and you're not, we can help each other, and vice versa. We can be there for each other. We can transform any sort of failure or misery into priceless assets. Priceless meaning anything is possible again. Anything is possible through this. So I'm not defined by my pain today. I'm not defined by the limiting stories that I tell myself, or maybe I perceive others have about me. All I have to do is walk hand in hand with this program, with this power. I have to continue to pray, meditate, and really trust that more is being revealed. I've seen that over and over again, that my plans and designs, they're very limited. They're very small. I might just want relief, but there's a grander plan. Through my experiences, I can then go out and help others. And I can break that cycle, whether it's my family cycle, whether, this family disease can, there's a solution now for me, this family disease. And in many different areas, I've become one of the only people in my family line to make a lot of decisions, to leave my place of birth and to go out. And we talk about the words lech lecha in Hebrew, like to go out, but we go out to ourselves. We go out to find ourselves. And that process, that continual seeking that we're doing, that's the program. Are you willing to keep seeking, to keep looking, and keep listening? And if you are, you can join us. It's an amazing place. Stay with us. And thank you for letting me share.
Thank you so much, Aura. That was amazing. I'm going to ask people to post their questions in the chat. Aura shared a lot with us about her recovery journey, being in Al-Anon, dealing with chronic pain, using her big book for that, which I love. She talked about going to properly appointed authorities. Sometimes those failed her, and using the big book to deal with all issues of life and all aspects of life. She spoke about in-person fellowship. She didn't brag, but she does a whole lot of sponsorship and helps people heal, helps drowning. Any questions you have on Al-Anonism, marijuana addiction, things in the rooms? Let's see, looks like we have something here. Oh, it's your number. I'll put mine in too. I'm going to ask you about how, we've discussed this before when Nikki M spoke. I'd love to hear about how you use our fellowship. We're both part of the Spiritual Gangsters Fellowship, and we use the workbook, which is like a Cliff Notes for the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Or and I are both active and grateful to be in that fellowship. Can you talk about how you use the big book of AA and the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous to deal with Al-Anonism, the people issues being the relative of an addict?
Yeah, sure. So I will be the first to admit I have a long way to go when it comes to the way that I relationship. This program is about relationshiping. I think my relationship truly, I was in some sort of, relationship as I was coming into the rooms. And I think looking at that and the use, my using in that, my using in all of my relationships, I always went really hand in hand with my marijuana addiction and other drugs and alcohol. And so I still have a long way to go, but I also feel like, a lot of that's been covered in working the workbook. That's what I love about this way, is that it says all addictions, all afflictions. And we have that ism, the alcoholism, the I, self, me, and also, the doctor's opinion works for anyone, reading through the doctor's opinion. So that's where I like to start. I also love that our workbook has, I've had sponsees ask me, how do I start reading the big book? Or, what do you suggest? And, we need to go slow, and we need to, this has to become a working part of our mind. So I always suggest, well, look at the references as we work step 1. We have these parentheses, page 63 or whatever pages we're looking at that come up. 63 is like step 3, but you know what I mean? Like whatever pages are referenced there in this beautiful workbook, we can then go and highlight and go work with that and meditate. Use those lines that we've covered, go meditate on them. It's never too early to start at step, 11, and sitting with them. I think a working part of our mind, again, is that discipline aspect. Just for today, am I touching it? Am I working with it? Just like a sculptor, takes a piece of clay and creates something, we can create something. We can create a language. There is a language of the big book that a lot of us who are using the workbook are starting to become versed in. And it's really beautiful when that language is also combined with our sincere desire to be helpful. And I found that the workbook for me, which I went through the 12 steps another way with the big book and line by line, and it took quite a while. And I saw that I couldn't really get any, I'm over 3 years in the room. I wasn't really getting any sponsees through the book. I mean, they were having a hard time with that other method. And even though I was hesitant to do the workbook and try something that was new and I wasn't quite sure of, it's been the most amazing thing. I've gotten sponsees through all 12 steps. It's been a workable method. I needed a method that I could also give to my sponsee so that they could become a sponsor. And that's what we focus on. I think just someone getting through, again, more will be revealed, but someone getting through step 1 through 12, when they get to 12, they're thinking less of themselves. They go out and help others. They've decided to go to any lengths in step 1. And so when they get through step 1 through 12, it's like some of that relationshiping ultimately goes away because they're not as self-seeking and self-centered. It's quite hard, to be self-seeking and self-centered if we talk about in our workbook the approach. Our only desire is to be helpful. There's no fees or dues to pay, et cetera, et cetera. So that sincere desire to be helpful translates over into our, into all aspects of our life, practicing these principles. And that's kind of how I've started with that process. Hope that answers it.
Yeah, amazing. We have a great question in the chat. I do want to ask you about how you found this fellowship and how it was different, how you entered the rooms. Did you find that it was other fellowships or programs you were working were less effective? Talk to me about the transition from Al-Anon to MA to spiritual gangsters and this workbook, and what changed, what you do different today.
Yeah, sure. Well, what I do different is I don't, I move a bit faster. I'm still honest and thorough with the work that I do, but I think there's less of that perfectionism and more of the, again, the sincerity and the willingness to go to any lengths. I think after our initial inventory that we do, again, we do that 10th step And so it's continuous action. After that first cleaning out, which many of us haven't done before coming to this program, that never happened again in all those other places that I tried to find human power. We could sit around in a room and talk about, what happened in my childhood. And many of us here share, similar childhood trauma, and that ease and stability was not there. I'm not so sure what that means for me today. Is there more work for me to do? Yes, all of us have a lot of work. I'm not so interested in exploring that in a way that just kind of keeps me in that same cycle, because I know very quickly I can get into my defect, which I love getting into the self-pity. It's a very easy one for me. So I found Spiritual Gangsters through a friend, I believe. Another friend that was in a women's meeting with me was going to some of our meetings, and she suggested it. I've been going ever since for a couple of years now. And I don't know, I think that what I found there was this fire. There's a passion for recovery, but it's also there's support there to find this power. There's an understanding that we've tapped this power. And again, like I shared in my share, that all things are possible. And so that's where I want to, that's kind of the group. That's kind of my fellowship that I want to be a part of. And it's just working a lot faster. There's a lot more, getting through the steps for the people that I'm working with. And I can still reference, other things that I've learned in other meetings. I've started a meeting in MA and then reestablished another meeting in NA. I've gone to other conventions. I've really been to meetings in all different fellowships. So this has been that beautiful place where all of those fellowships can meet, that we can use the big book, and there's just a strong recovery here. So I want to stick around.
Gosh, I so relate to that. I also spend a lot of time in the rooms and working a program that spent, 6 months on step 1, a lot of journaling, which I love and is amazing and cathartic, and I so relate to your story, just found myself not getting better, or, having a sponsor, doing step work, having people who were, quote unquote, hugging me to death, as I heard on A Vision for You, giving me a lot of love, giving me TLC that I needed. But, at a certain point, because I took upon myself to be honest and willing, I was like, okay, this is nice. It's comforting, but it's more than a log. It's a crutch, and I'm not getting better. And I also found that going through the steps swiftly, taking people through the steps swiftly, and just getting them working with others, which is really what our big book says, is what's it all about. Somewhere along the line, the program got convoluted into this really, really intricate therapizing, journalizing thing, which for those of us who emote too much and think too much, that could be dangerous. And that could, or to put it in big book language, like Aura was suggesting, that could get us selfish. I also really related to what Aura said, is like, today I don't have time to think about, and when you're working with others, you hear it and you're like, oh my God, do I want to go to the personal trainer? We're here in Israel. Do I want to go to Torah classes? Just a whole lot of me, a whole potpourri of me festivities. And it's like, today when I hear my sponsee speak, I'm so excited, because I was like, wow, I'm like, okay, I gotta get my kids stuff for the holiday. Wow, I really want to help my mother who's aging get ready. Wow, okay, I got my sponsees started with step 4, and it's like our lists change, when we're aiming to be helpful, and that's really precisely what Aura was saying. Our to-do list change. It's not this whole laundry list of me, extra dosage of me. It's like, I'm out here, our whole comportment has changed. We're different. I'll give you guys an example. It's a holiday here where we clean for Passover, we do a massive spring cleaning. And I actually have neighbors that like across the hall that is like a bit of a social services case. And actually my hallway smells really bad, and it's really dirty. And it's no secret who the suspects are. Like, there could be eggshells on the floor and junk. And that's I was like, well, okay, I'm armed with the facts. I'm not going to tattletale to social services because I'm not sure that would be helpful. But like, I want it clean because it stinks. And so, what do we do when we're honest and aiming to be helpful and armed with the facts? I grabbed a mop and a rag and started cleaning. And my kids were like, Mom, you're a woman of grace. What are you doing? This is beneath your dignity. I was like, no, this is my dignity. I see a problem. It's, one of those things that what it is, serenity prayer. Give me my lines, change the things I can. I can get bleach. I can get a rag, and I can mop this 5 square meters of stank, So like, I do that, and that's the change, instead of like, oh my gosh, they're gross and I hate them. Believe me, I sometimes think that. But, today we, perhaps they're spiritually sick, putting out of our minds the wrongs others have done. And yes, cracked eggshells and bits of salmon and dirty diapers on the stairs are wrongs. We look, where are we at fault? Where are we to blame? Well, I just want the world to be perfect. And if I do, I could just, perfect these few little tiles and mop them. Anyway, I digress. Back to Aura's story. Aura, this is great. I really hope God and higher power sends you a speedy recovery. And I'm sorry that you deal with chronic pain. Unfortunately, the big book, isn't the panacea for everything, but it tells us how to live with everything. This is just a new topic. It's just like when we brought in Debtors Anonymous. It's like, this is really cool because we've spoken about mental illness, and we've spoken about, neurodiversity. Many of us have children with neurodiversity, ADHD, dyslexia, whatever, the spectrum, autism. And chronic pain is kind of a new one that you're throwing in the mix. Brian, you put a question in the chat about, how do you deal with chronic pain? How do you work your program around that? How do you, seek properly appointed authorities? You want to answer that one?
Yeah, sure. And it also speaks to what you just shared, Karen, that we're looking to be restored to sanity. Again, when we read that in the workbook, we mark sanity as a promise. That's how it was shown to me, of one of the many promises that are outlined here. I really think that, being restored to sanity, again, being restored to a position of neutrality is the key. It's my outlook, but I was told that so many times. It's in your head. I was told so many times to seek the mental route, which is what was so interesting to me, because I saw there was a huge lack of knowledge around the mind-body connection. There's still so much research being done. I have a sponsee now who's working the 12 steps very rigorously and also really doing her own trauma work. I'm very involved in collective trauma work. I'm learning all the time. So for me, it's taken on the learning route and a lot of intuition to know what's right for me. I shared that living in chronic pain, there's a lot about energy in there, energy levels. We tend to think less of ourselves when any small thing happens, or maybe Karen and I have talked about this, like really not having maybe the energy to show up for certain things we have on our list today. They might be our plans and designs. So it really requires us to go a bit slower, and I've kept my life very simple, very minimal in some aspects. As much of my time that I can dedicate to this work, I do. And so just living with that right thinking, I check my thinking, and I keep pursuing it. It's never, I think there hasn't been a possibility for me to completely let go of seeking relief. But I know on a mental level, for sure, I can get relief through this program and through my service. On a body level, I can take whatever care I need to. So that's been, a lot about like supplements and seeking different people, different help. But I'm very, very careful after many years and a lot of finances going to this work about who I work with. I have that I have a little bit more discrepancy with that, which I think that's important. I think that that also comes with the work. It also comes with working with different types of people. We do our research. Someone offered me, I wanted to learn in a program recently, again, more healing work that always also helps me on an individual level. And they were offering a very expensive program. I didn't have any experience with them. I didn't know anyone who had experience with them. So I checked my references. And when I checked into it, things started to show up that didn't seem aligned. So trusting that, I think I've been given also a strong level of intuition. And when I go slow, I honor that energy. I mean, I had a lot of emotional chaos in the last 24 hours because I didn't have enough alone time. I didn't have an 11th step. So when I have that as the foundation, I know that I'm going to be restored to sanity. I can then go from that place and then wait and be patient and not need to kind of just keep convincing myself that the solution is in my hands. I have to fix it. I think, Karen, you're unmuted. And then I'm less worried about being proactive or not proactive, which is a big thing for me. I will convince myself that if I can't be helpful to myself, I must not be working my program. But I wasn't helpful to myself coming in here. I needed support. And so it's just really, I think it's a diligence that's required of us, a slowing down, helping. There's so many different factors. And then just treating ourselves right. Like Karen said, we're all in the midst here of like intense cleaning and scrubbing things and getting rid of things. And then many people don't even stop and take the time for their own self-care, and so there's a lot of backwards thinking. And I think that if we join together and we check each other's thinking and we go out as a fellowship, we can bring tremendous light into a lot of these darker spaces. There's not a lot of places I've heard that we can even really like listen to each other. So that's something I really found, that when I listen to myself, it's still a huge process. It's very hard to listen to your body when you're in pain, but that's been a lot of the direction that I've gotten. Just listen, just wait, more will be revealed, do my research, et cetera, et cetera. And then if I can just care for myself, knowing that the great reality is deep down within me, that reality of this power, that I've tapped this source of power, and I'm being kind of rejuvenated from this power and this work. So a lot of that is just is healing. It's healing me, as we read in the 12 and 12.
I love what you said there, and what I'm hearing, to put in a little more big book language in what Aura is saying, is that she's armed with the facts. She's armed with the facts about her physical condition, what has helped her mentally, what has helped her physically. She's armed with the fact about, what gives her relief, what gives her a reprieve from her physical condition, from her addiction. And that's one of the things we do here. And I'll put it in another term, in a term of a character asset, is we get responsible. We get out of fantasy and into reality. I spoke about cleaning, or spoke about cleaning for Passover. If you're doing a spring cleaning, if we know that, at age 49, in my case, that I've got a little less energy, or that, I have the most energy in the mornings, I'm armed with the facts, and I might schedule my grueling task or physically demanding task, like, this Maria, what's the name of this designer, and it's like, if I don't have energy in the evening, well, I'll fall free then. We get armed with the facts about ourselves, about our condition, for a coda. We go visit the really, really difficult person, if we are in contact with them, only when we're up for it, when we're mentally and spiritually fit. We could, like our big book says, we could do all sorts of things that we wouldn't normally do. So we get armed with the facts. We get into reality, out of fantasy. We grow up, we're mature, we're now armed with the facts, swallow the truth, what helps, what didn't help, about chronic pain, and about a properly appointed authority. I also am a big fan of trauma therapy, of EMDR. I think it's fantastic. Again, I'm not going to give an outside opinion on an outside issue, but I will share my experience, because that's been helpful to me in conjunction with my step work, reflexology, massage, doing things to nurture myself and give myself, some of the stuff that I didn't feel I got, anyway, I don't want to go too much into that, but again, it's just about being responsible, but being armed with the facts. And as a codependent, which most addicts are, and certainly all Al-Anons are. I think that was the early term for an Al-Anon, right? The codependent is like the partner of the dependent. I'm also an Al-Anon. As an Al-Anon, it's like I may sit around, as an addict, I may be resentful. As an Al-Anon, I may be resentful and expecting other people to do for me. But see, that's where we get responsible. We get armed with the fact, if I need to be cared for, I will care for myself and get a massage. How about that? Or ask if I need help. I will ask someone to help me. Yesterday I was exhausted. I had this whole huge plan to do all this stuff, and I just crashed. And I was like, wow, bad news. Like, I couldn't even stand on my feet, and I just let everyone know. I let my kids know, don't make noise. I shut off all my phones, and then someone helped me. I didn't even answer their call. It was kind of embarrassing. But I was armed with the facts. I couldn't see straight. I was so exhausted. So I did the responsible thing and went to sleep. Now, before I came into these rooms 10 years ago, I would have probably let myself get crazy, let myself scream at my kids. I could have hit. I certainly would have yelled. And I would have had a whole bag of amends to make. So I didn't get what I wanted done, but I got to sleep, and I got out of harm's way, or I wasn't harm's way. Anyway, so that's a lot about responsibility, about getting armed with the facts, and about seeking a properly appointed authority. A lot of people in these rooms have children with issues. The family afterwards tells us that addiction is a family disease. We spoke about it in terms of Al-Anonism. That could be parents, siblings, or both. And certainly parenting in recovery can be challenging. And I've heard a fellow of mine frequently say, like, I'm so glad I'm not my daughter's properly appointed authority. Like, she has a therapist, same with another fellow. Her daughter has a therapist, not all mothers can't tackle necessarily I'm not referring to them too. I'm referring, tons of women around the world, their daughter's anorexia, their daughter's cutting, some people have, I sat next to a friend that I 12-step kind of unexpectedly, really. I was just sharing my program and how I love it. She's like, you look great. And the big book says, we straighten out physically and mentally. That follows the spiritual rehabilitation. And I shared with her, and she had a daughter who had attempted suicide and had been around several mental institutions here and abroad. And she's like, I wonder if that would be good for your daughter. I was like, well, she has to want it. It's a small price for entry, but without it, game over. I said, she really has to want it. And don't go to anyone who charges you money, and it's the best thing ever. 3 things. It's the best thing ever. Don't let anyone charge you. And she has to really want it, which is a bummer because not all addicts really want to be recovered. While I've said that, I'm going to put in a plug as a person who sponsors a lot. If you are currently sponsoring, or if you're looking for a sponsor and the person doesn't really want it with the desperation of a drowning man, it is time to please part ways. You are not breaking up with them. I know as a CODA, we have issues with leaving, with abandonment, with breaking up. It is just following instructions, which again is being undisciplined. And I'm going to get to the question in the chat about discipline. Being undisciplined, we don't like to follow the rules. The rule book says if someone doesn't want it, it is a WOT, a waste of time. And if we keep working with a person who doesn't want it, or if we keep bugging people when we don't really, really want it, aren't really getting, and we're not honest and we're arguing and we want an easier, softer way, well, that is a waste of time. And we're killing someone else who might, yes, want it. It's not just suicide, it's murder. It's a suicide, homicide. It's a double count. So if you're sponsoring someone and they don't really want it, don't be afraid. They might recover later. Hard ways. Tell them, I cannot be helpful to you. My big book only allows, that sounds kind of punitive. My big book directs me to work with people who want this with the desperation of a drowning man. So we have to get disciplined. As a CODA, we might be scared to part ways, or I don't want to hurt them. But really, that's all about our selfishness, all about us wanting to be a savior and save the day. It's not about being selfless and doing the work and doing what is helpful, which is saving the drowning man who wants to catch the life ring. So let's talk about that. We're going to talk about being disciplined as a sponsee, which means listening, humility, sometimes you have to part ways. I'm not saying not every sponsor is great, but you got to be disciplined. There's no arguing with your sponsor. If you don't agree with your sponsor, you don't like what they have, you just move on. Like if you're arguing, like you're in the wrong place and you're doing the wrong thing and you're not working this program. Okay, I can identify with discipline. I lack so much there. It's a challenge daily. What would be the steps towards achieving discipline that helped you? That is a question from our friend and fellow Nick in India. Thank you, Nick. I think it's the first time you're here, if I'm not mistaken. We welcome you, and we hope you'll come back almost every Wednesday. You want to answer that, Aura? Talk about discipline? And,
sure. Yeah, I'll do that. And I want to just back up before I answer that and say 1 minute and welcome Nick and welcome anyone new or listening that's new. My number's in the chat here, but you can also get in touch with me through Karen when it's recorded. But just backing up to what you shared, Karen, it's, we can have that passion of recovery, and many people sometimes, hear all those solutions and they haven't just looked and listened at the spiritual principles that have been laid at their feet, at the footsteps that we lay at our sponsees' footsteps. And any sponsor that never says, and any teacher that never says, I don't know, that's a little bit questioning for me. And also I have to watch that in myself, because I want to become someone's properly appointed authority, and I do that seamlessly. It's really amazing to have that perceived stability in my mind that I'm the authority, and whatever just pops into my mind might be a solution. That's why it's amazing to use the big book language and to remember, that we will just walk hand in hand with our sponsee or sponsor. And then we really have the other hand with this loving, it says the word care in our third step. So I just wanted to back up and say, it's a process. You can go slow. There is ebbs and flows of life. There's steps for a reason. We take each step after each other. So we don't need to rush into the solution. The solution's already there. Again, if we've made that third step decision, we're pretty much waiting. We're just saying, I'm open-minded and I'm willing to receive your will. I don't belong to myself anymore. So it's not always about rushing forward or getting disciplined. Again, a lot of the first part of that is just looking and listening. So to answer the question about discipline, what's your why? Why are you, what are you trying to get disciplined in? Do you feel like this power that you've handed your life over and your will over, like we say in the workbook, our thoughts and our actions over to, do you believe this is a caring, all-powerful and loving God? If so, then you would treat yourself, again, in that same way. If you're, in the image of your creator, you're connecting to your creator and your creator's caring for you. Do you care for yourself? What's your why? Have you listened? Have you looked through slowly these principles that have been laid before you, the solution laid before you? A lot of the times my willingness is not there. And that's a process of my willingness. My willingness has to match the thing in which I'm willing for, in which I'm seeking. A lot of the things we're seeking, we might be in the process of receiving. We are not a match for it yet. So maybe I'm trying to get disciplined, in a certain, in a certain learning that I'm doing. Like I learn every day, I learn this new language or whatever it is, but my willingness isn't, I don't really understand yet how this is helpful, or so I think there's a process before, we get disciplined. And then that helps us develop, our sense of care for ourselves. We understand why it would be helpful and why we should even do it, and why we should make time for it. And then we don't have to worry so much about being disciplined. It comes much easier. It's an easier process, if that makes sense.
That is so amazing. I'm going to ask you, I'm going to kind of guide you here to talk about something instead of me talking about it. Will you share about how you use your step 10, 11, and 12 daily to discipline you?
Yeah, sure. First of all, when it comes to, I'm skipping ahead, but when it comes to like a step 11, I shared, that sometimes I'm not feeling, before I came into the program, I was living I was living a religious lifestyle, a lot different than my upbringing. And there was a lot of discipline in that. Some of those things started to ebb and flow. I wasn't as disciplined over the years. But that religious lifestyle, even though I still live that religious lifestyle today, it didn't really develop this faith that I was looking for. I really wanted to be in a room, as we do in these rooms. I wanted to sit with a group of people and talk about faith. I wanted to talk about their conception of higher power. I wanted to hear what's going on from them, because we're part of like an ecosystem. That's what we say in our collective healing work. We're part of an ecosystem. We can't think that we're separate from this fellowship. If we're really in the middle of the pack, that means we're in the pack, we're in the group. And so 10, 11, 12 is, for me, 10 has been much, I've shared this with Karen, it's much easier when I just do that consistently all throughout the day. When a situation comes up, or I start, initially it was, we'll use that word again, discipline. It was when I first had taken the step, it was like, do it every night and share it with your sponsor. But I'm selfish, resentful, self-seeking, fearful all throughout the day. And then there's moments where I'm like, okay, a lot of these things have piled up. Again, my closet's getting very full of me, all of these different defects. I need to go through that. And I love how our workbook instructs us to do that. That in 10, I just get to look at the column 4 and 5, column 4 being my defects, 5 being my assets. I get to see what's happening in the situation. A lot of the times I need the sick man's prayer, page 67 of the big book. I have to realize I can't be helpful to everyone. That's again about the relationshiping thing. I always feel I need to be on and available for everyone and supportive to everyone. And that's kind of like a lacking mindset. So I have to go through that process usually, a lot of acceptance. And then once I find my column 4 and 5, I can just plug that back into the 7th step. And really, I think step 10 is all about just offering myself everything that I found for the day to my creator again, and knowing that it will be removed quickly or slowly. It's not really my business at that point. And I trust that I'm useful again today. And when I'm useful, I feel the caring power of this God. I can, we're sensitive people, but someone said in the rooms, we're not sensitive, we're touchy, which is a lot different. And so 11 really removes that touchiness, that backup. I've had a lot of meditation where I felt myself being like cleaned out. I don't realize how many thoughts are happening, how many things I'm planning. It's a lot of planning. I'm just organizing everything, not really the will of my creator. And then 12, I feel like just every single time we're in service, looking for service, just even when I was on vacation, a lot of my step 12 was like just really being available for my sponsees, kind of being consistent with all of them. A lot of them are on different steps, being organized and available to give, looking for ways to share. My next thing is like kind of looking for more service positions. I'm keeping current is the word that I use for myself. Am I keeping current with my recovery today? Is it consistent? And so that feels like the 10 through 12 for me.
I love what you said, and I love your energy. You're just so awesome. She really technical. She really has a solution, and she really works with them to get them, clear cut fashion. And she's really nice too, which is always a sign of recovery. You never want to go after someone who's browbeating, people with a big book or bludgeoning them with it. Anyway, 10, 11, and 12. Nick, I'm undisciplined. I like to think I'm a big picture person. I like to think I'm a creative. I like to think I'm brilliant. When I'm really egotistical, I try not to be. But really, I need God's discipline, which means I need to wake up and say, God, help me. I need to have Him direct my day. I may need to, over my coffee, write out, do a 2-way prayer / to-do list. It's usually combined. It's usually like, God help, I can't, you can. Wash dishes, go to the supermarket, do the alterations, go to the pharmacy, get my work done. God disciplines me that way when I ask Him for help in verbal prayer, in written prayer. And unfortunately for me, being undisciplined, when I don't use my 10, 11, and 12, which means admitting any character defect immediately, making amends, praying when things crop up and helping other people. 11, conscious contact with God, stopping to meditate, like I said before, not just pushing through, powering through when I'm exhausted, but stopping, resting, asking higher power to help me calm down, help me get some rest. We had a full-blown missile attack here from Iran Saturday night. Well, yesterday I had to use my 10, 11, and 12 because I found myself jittery. I found myself scared. Now, when it happened, I was like, God, just let me, if it's my time, God forbid, let me be a good mom, let me be a good friend, let me be a good fellow, let me have been praying to you. But yesterday I was jittery and I kept having to meditate some more. Right there. It was not like that you say in the room, the real fear of countries at war. So that disciplines me. I don't have the dubious luxury of other people to just blow a gasket, to lose it on my neighbor, to be a witch. It can happen. But I don't have the luxury to live that way. So for me, I must live in 10, 11, and 12 to keep me in shape, just like I must be off white flour and sugar to be sane as someone who identifies as a compulsive overeater. And whenever I go places, people are like, wow, you're so disciplined, you don't have cake. Wow, you're so disciplined. It's like, no, I'm not disciplined, therefore I don't have cake. God does not want me to have cake because he does not want me an angry, screaming, over-emotional, volatile mother, friend, and coworker. So we use this program. In short, how do you get disciplined? You work the 12 steps, including 10, 11, and 12, 12 being working with others, being of service and sponsoring others, like our workbook says on the first page. You will be a sponsor. This is the kind of aha, bright light moment that I didn't get in other fellowships. You will be a sponsor. That is the end game. And if you're working it swiftly, like Laura and I do, that should be happening in about 2 months. Sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more. You want to be up and sponsoring because that will keep you sane. Aura, I'm going to mute myself. If you have anything to add in, please do. I thank you so much for your service and your beautiful, beautiful share. Share whatever else you like, and then I'm going to ask you to pray us out, please.
Sure. Thank you again for letting me be of service. Thanks for letting me be of service. I will just say also, for those of us, because we were talking today about pain, that's emotional pain, that's physical pain, any type of pain that you're in, there is an other side to that. And I think it's important for us who are in pain to support each other. I found a lot of comfort through that process of identifying. We can support each other also through the big book. And 10, 11, 12 also helps us with our nervous system. I was talking about before, it really takes us back to that position of neutrality. And that's what for me, the pain is my nervous system isn't in a position of neutrality. The lines aren't communicating right, the sense of like neuropathy, and I have something in the nervous system that's giving me signals of pain. I don't know where it's caused from. I don't know if it's spiritual, all these different reasons people have given me, past life, whatever it is. Does it really matter why we've gotten here? The thing is, if you're listening today, you've joined us today, you have another opportunity today to go out. Anything is possible. When you believe in these steps in this program, you've seen us recover. It says, turn your attention to those of us who have recovered through this program. Please do that. Please use the resources. Please reach out. Get a little uncomfortable, because on the other side is this beautiful bliss and sustainable joy when you just do a small action. I know sometimes it's hard to pick up the phone. Just please reach out. There's sometimes questions. There's answers here. There's solutions. There's someone here that can assist you. And I'm just so thankful to be here and to be walking this path with all of you. So I will close us out and finish us out with the 7-step prayer after a moment of silence. My Creator, I'm now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. Amen. Thy will be done. Thank you all.
Amen. Thank you, Aura. Beautiful.
this life of mine. Peaks too high to conquer, streams too wide to cross, troughs too deep to walk through without incurring loss. Yet here I am, still standing tall, despite the rough terrain. One like me survived the storms and walked through wind and rain. Still standing, I will fight the good fight, still searching for glimmers of